For the past 12 years, I've worked at the weekends in kitchens to subsidise my artistic pursuits. And in a kitchen in London, I used this pastry margarine or butter to create these hot cakes. And that was my kind of lights on moment. The texture of it, the malleability, the fact that you can temper it. I knew that this was going to be then, my first sculpture would be made in butter. My name is Benjamin Collards, and if I am to define myself by what I do, then in making a sculpture, I have become a sculptor. I've been working on this sculpture for about 14 months. I started with a wooden armature and that was a complete failure. And the whole thing collapsed. I realised I had to refrigerate the core for it to solidify enough to hold its form. You get these moments of seeing in amongst the haze, where you see something differently and from how you've seen it before, and all of a sudden it reveals itself. So I've had to create a kind of refrigerated skeleton that goes around the body to cool the core of the sculpture. So as you apply the butter, it cools and solidifies to a strength enough to hold itself together. It stops being this kind of sticky texture and finds a kind of solidity that can hold itself together. It's not a self-portrait, it's a conceptual piece, so it's trying to express the idea from which the piece originates. However, it is a sculpture of a human body, and I want that to be true. I feel like sculpting from life is the best way to tell the story of the human form. This sculpture has been crafted from observation of the human body, photographic references to particular moments, and also from my mind's eye of trying to kind of sketches beforehand, describing the concept in the first place. I started using a bucket to get back into that position, and using the mirror and a bucket to lie back to get this kind of, but it's so difficult to get into that position and hold it and then memorize what you want to sculpt and then get back up, and it's too inaccurate. So I got a model in for most of the upper body. The mirror helps me see the other side of whatever I'm sculpting, so I get a kind of better round view of the object I'm trying to depict. So one of the complexities of working with a new medium or something that you've not worked with before is you come across these hurdles along the way and discover by overcoming failure. And 3 weeks ago I came into the studio and his arm had dropped off the body, essentially. The entirety of his shoulder had just fissured, was on the floor in the studio. As a result of the sculpture having left the refrigerated armature, the weight of the butter had pulled it. Finishing off this piece, if a piece can be finished, that's what I'm attempting to do before it's revealed to the world tomorrow in the first of a series of 5 exhibitions. Tomorrow I shall be craning this sculpture out of the first floor window of my studios, mainly because we couldn't get it down the stairs. Okay, yeah, push, keep going, yeah, we're okay at the top. Anna, keep going. If I was really going to worry about it, I wouldn't do it. And so I'm just going to plough, to a certain degree. I feel I've just got to kind of plough forward and deal with the obstacles as they arise. We've turned it into a kind of celebration of the last days before it's transformed into a digital print and then cast into bronze.
It definitely feels like a milestone. So there's this idea that I should be relieved, but I just feel like it's next got to go halfway across the country, and each time there's going to be the same obstacle, so it's really just the beginning.
It's a kind of peaceful, quiet, comfortable environment to begin this tour around exhibiting my work for the first time, prior to being in the foreign territory of London with all its critiques and scrutiny. So there's a nice kind of contrast to yesterday's frightening drama of bringing him out the window.
The more I share it and the further I share this work, the more I look back and think, well, I'm so glad that I spent part of my life doing this thing. And so why not share it with as many people as possible?
There was always a risk. During the tour, the sculpture would start falling apart. I knew it could happen. As I opened the van, the inevitable demise of this, his first kind of skin, had begun. And there was a moment in London where the kind of panic of trying to re-sculpt him, but it was a losing battle, and the more I kind of fixed, the more bits broke off, and there was this kind of point of horror and sweat, and I had to accept that people were going to come and see this thing actually falling apart. I was kind of traumatized by this, and it wasn't until everybody had turned up, and it was that kind of will of everybody there saying, this is amazing anyway, it shows the process, and be that undefeated person that doesn't give in when things go bad. That's the other shoulder. He's been to 3 exhibitions in various states of decline, and then I get back to dismantling the sculpture, and ultimately I now have the task of pushing forward his rebirth.
I suppose that the whole purpose of making this is to share it. The whole purpose of the sculpture is to share the concept, or to share the work as broadly and as extensively as possible.